I grew up alone, not by choice, but because people just didn't like being around me. I was the quiet kid, the one who sat in the corner of the classroom, drawing on the side of my backpack because it made me feel less empty. My mother worked nights. My father wasn't around. So most evenings it was just me sitting in our dim apartment, listening to the pipes knock in the walls like they were trying to get my attention. The subway was the only place I ever felt invisible, underground, hidden, where the world didn't care who you were or how lonely you felt. I used to write it after school, sitting in the last car, feeling the rumble beneath my feet like it was a heartbeat I didn't have. I didn't know then that those tunnels would ruin my life. It started the night I missed the last train. I was 16. I'd stayed late at school because I didn't want to go home. When I reached the station, everything was silent. The kind of silence that presses against your eardrum. But then I heard something, a soft, dragging noise behind me. At first I thought it was just an old homeless man, but when I turned around, no one was there. Only wet streaks on the floor, like something had been pulled across the tiles. A sign flickered above me, glitching between "Last train departed" and "Stand clear." The dragging sound came again, closer this time. I stepped backward, my hands shaking as the lights above the tracks sputtered and dimmed. For a moment, everything went black. Then I heard a whisper, a child's whisper. "You're late, just like before." I froze. The voice sounded like mine, but younger, much younger. The lights flicked back on, and the floor was clean, dry, empty. I tried to convince myself it was just stress, just exhaustion, but deep down, I knew something had followed me. The next night, I took the subway again, against my better judgment. This time, when the train arrived, only one car's lights were on, the very last one. The doors slid open with a long metallic groan. I stepped inside, and sitting at the far end of the car was a little boy. He had my face, my hair, my old clothes, the ones I wore when I was 9. His legs dangled off the seat as he kicked them lightly, smiling at me with a grin that felt too wide, too sharp. "I saved you a seat." I couldn't move. He tilted his head. "Why did you leave me alone down here?" My heart dropped. Down here? I'd never seen him before. At least, I thought I hadn't. But his eyes looked exactly like mine did when I used to hide in the basement during my parents' fight. He slid off the seat. His feet didn't touch the ground. He hovered slightly. I waited and waited and waited. His voice warped, deeper, heavier, like something ancient was speaking through him. The lights in the car flickered violently, and his shadow stretched across the floor, reaching toward me like a living thing. I ran, but the doors didn't open. They wouldn't open. The train started moving on its own, fast, too fast. The car shook violently, metal shrieking against metal. The boy, the thing, crawled toward me on its hands and feet, joints bending in the wrong direction. "You forgot about me." Its voice was layered now, mine at 9 years old, mine now, and something deeper beneath both. I backed into the far door and pounded on it, screaming for help. The train lights cut off completely. Darkness swallowed the car, except for 2 glowing eyes inches from my face. "Let me back in," a whisper against my ear. Cold breath brushed my neck. I felt fingers, tiny, skeletal fingers, wrap around my wrist. I screamed and pulled away just as the lights snapped back on. The boy was gone, but my wrist had a small, perfect handprint burned into the skin. I didn't ride the subway for months after that. I should have stayed away forever. Years later, the truth came out. Not because I discovered it, but because it forced itself into my memory. I remembered something I had buried deep, something from when I was little. When my parents fought, I used to run into the basement to hide. But one night, I wasn't alone. I had an imaginary friend, or at least that's what my mother called him. A boy who looked exactly like, who played with me in the dark, who whispered things only I could hear. But he wasn't imaginary. He was something else, something that lived in dark places, lonely places. And when my parents divorced and I stopped hiding in the basement, I stopped visiting him. I left him there, alone. And he followed me from the basement into the tunnels, into the subways. He never stopped waiting. He never forgave. Last week, I heard him again while riding home. The train slowed, lights flickered, and from the far end of the car, a small voice called out, "I found you." This time, he wasn't a child. He was taller, almost my height now. A twisted reflection of me, grown into something wrong. He smiled, not wide, not playful, hungry. "Sit with me," he said, "or I'll take someone else in your place." I sat down. I didn't look at him. I didn't breathe. I just stared at my reflection in the window, watching his shadow slowly merge with mine. The train is almost at my stop. People are waiting on the platform. Normal people, safe people. But I can't move, because he's holding my hand under the seat. Cold fingers wrapped around mine, tightening, pulling. I know what he wants. He wants me to stay with him, forever. And as the doors open and passengers rush in, I feel his breath on my neck as he whispers, "If you leave, I'll replace you." So I stay seated, silent, frozen. The doors close. the train moves. And I realize with absolute certainty, I'm never getting off this train again.